Okay, now we're good. Hey, the other day we had class and we went through and we talked about uh, working with strings where we pull data in and then throw it out to another form, right? Throw it into an array and then pull it from the array list back out. So, what I want to work with today is a little more of the newer types of string functions because I posted some information the other day where you were going to go back and look at and see if we what am I trying to say, where we had a comma in a string, right? And I showed where you could split the two parts apart and throw them into different fields, because remember, in an array list we just load one big string field in there that we piece together, right? So let's go through here and let's mess around with this. I won't throw it into the array list. I can, but it doesn't matter if it's in a text box, right? So let's put a text box out here. Probably need a bigger one than that. Let's go through here and Austin's coming in. Okay. Let me put my list box down here, kind of like we did the other day. And then let's put a button. Okay. And button one. Hello, Austin. You with us now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. What we're doing is we're just going to work on what we talked about the other day that was highlighted in yellow, and you guys looked over it, and then we're going to modify that and go on, okay? So let's say button one, what I want to do is I want to split the two parts, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type a string in the text box, click this button, and then I want to split the string field apart. And I'm going to assume that my string field is going to be separated by a comma, okay? Does that make sense? So if I were going to run this, let me see. It's not going to work because we don't really have anything there. But hang on here. I'm trying to get it over here on this screen. Can you see this form?
No.
Now can you? Yes, no?
Nope.
Now you can. Correct?
Maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do something here is like I'm going to come through here and put a name, and then I'll separate it by a comma. And how old are you, Todd?
25.
Okay. So I'm going to put a name and an age. And then when I click this button, what I want it to do is I want to separate those two fields. So you kind of see what we're trying to do here? Okay. So here we go. Now I got to go back to my sharing and go back to this one. Now you can see my screen again. So with this button, I'm going to double click the button and start adding my code. First thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to dim a field called temp, which is going to be capturing my string field from the text box, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to come through and I'm going to say name and another field called age, and I'm going to make these all string values, okay? Except I got to type it right. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to do a couple of these L, C, S. I'm just making these up as decimals just so I'll have plenty of fields that I need to know. So first one I'm going to do is say temp is equal to text box 1 dot text. And so whether this string like this is in an array list as a complete line or in a text field, it really doesn't matter, correct? You're going to get to see the same option there when we do that. I'm going to do one thing here. Okay. So if we go back and look at what we talked about the other day, that first one, I'm going to break those apart, right? So what was the command we used the other day? Do you remember where I went through and I highlighted it and I looked up for a string value within a string? Did you ever see that one?
I did. I'm trying to think of what it was.
Okay. Let's just do this one. Let's go. S is equal to in string. Okay. So in other words, this method right here looks for a string. It can be a name. It can be 1 byte in length. It can be 100 if you want. But what we do is we tell it the string value, and it's temp, right? And what value was I using to separate the name and the age?
The comma.
Okay, so I put quote, comma, quote. And what that's going to do is it's going to return me a number. And so right now I have that list box, right? I want to do nothing more than say, all right, what is the number that it came up with? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we look at this and I said Todd, comma, my comma should be in what spot?
In between the age and the name.
Okay. But what position? Okay.
Wouldn't it be the 4th position?
Like right here, I put Todd, the comma's in the 5th spot, right? And then
Yes.
we said his age, correct? So when I click that little button right here, what should show up?
Oh.
Do you see the 5?
Is it because it's not setting the proper selection for it, like the index?
Well, all I'm doing right now is telling it what spot is the comma. Okay? You with me so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going back over here to go back to my program. And we know what spot it is, correct? So what I want to do is we can do this a number of ways. First of all, I had an example of one called mid, correct? Mid means take this string field and break it into a part. And we kind of did this. And if you think back, we're also going to use the one called substring, which was one we used in VB or C#, right? Either one of them work here. But what I'm going to say is, okay, on temp, I want to start in the first spot, right? And I want to go to what? The comma, which is in what?
The 5th spot.
Or
would
put a
you just do
variable
S?
there, it's S, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's try this. And now instead of printing, we'll print S, and then I'll say plus VB tab, right? Put another plus sign in here, and now I want to print the name, correct? So now let's see if this runs. We're just going to kind of step our way through this, right? Okay, share that form. Boom. So now we had Todd, right? And then 25. So when I split it into 2 different parts here, Dylan, what's it going to do for me?
It should put a space there, right? By the comma.
It shows me the length of where it shows me. The first thing it prints is where the comma is, right? And then the next thing it printed Todd, but it also captured what?
Everything in between that and the comma.
Yeah, but we don't want that comma to display, correct?
Yeah.
So what we really want to do here is, hang on, is if I come back over here, instead of going all the way to S, I really only want 1 through what? 4?
Yep.
Okay, so right here, if I come back over here and say S minus 1, won't that be the fourth position?
Supposedly.
Yep, that's it. Okay, so that gives me the name. Now, if I want the age, I can come back with mid again, right? And I can tell it to go on temp. But where do I want to start at this time? I don't want to start at 5. I want to start at what?
You want to start at 6.
6. And if I don't put a comma and another field, it just tells me to go all the way through the end of the what?
Final character.
Yeah, because in this case, there was only 2, right? So now let's go back over here. And so we're going to print the name. I'm going to put a plus sign, and I want VB tab again. And now I also want to print out the age, correct? All right, let's run it. Share that form. Okay, so here we go. Now we have Todd, and he was 25, right? Worked, didn't it?
Yeah, but we still have the placer for
Dylan, how old are you,
25.
19?
Yep.
Boom. So now, because we used variables, now we're going to have the first number is going to be what?
19.
6.
Or it should be 6.
6, and then we should break yours apart, right? If I came back, George is 99 now. It because of the way we built it, it's going to be flexible because we used variables, right, to find the location of the comma. And we just went one spot before and one spot after, so that breaks it into 2 parts, right?
Yep.
So here's my question: what if I did this and put some funky phone number in there, right? Now I want to deal with what?
The phone number.
Yeah, but this is only set up for what?
The age and name.
Yeah, it's only set up for 2. So what if we come back now and modify this? Because, you know, if we look at it, trying to store a value, which one did, yeah, I shared the right one. Let's go back here now, and instead of splitting it into 2 parts, let's put another button out here to do what?
Add the phone number to a different list, I'm assuming.
Yeah, this one, let's do 3 parts.
So this is an optional button, basically.
Yeah, this is a different button, but instead of just breaking it into 2, now I have to, I've got a dilemma now, because if we look at it now, not only do I have to find 1 comma, I also have to find what?
The placement of that comma
The second
after
comma?
the number, the age.
I need to find multiple commas, right? Yes? Okay. So let's go through here and look at this. This might be fun. So now when I double click this one's going to be much the same, right? So let's copy what we got and then we'll modify it. Copy, come down here. Let's paste it in there. But instead of L's just going to be the overall length if I want to use that. But let's do this. Comma 1, comma 2. How's that? Will that work?
Yeah.
And so right here, instead of the spot here, this is going to be C1, correct? Right?
Yes.
So the name is C1 minus 1, and we're good there. But we can't, and I mean, even on the age, we can still use what? C1,
Yeah.
yes? So C1 just replaced all the S's, right? Because all that's fine and dandy. The problem is we got to be able to find the second comma, right? And the problem that runs into is in string, that only finds which one? The first.
Yeah.
See, I don't think we can do, let's try this though. Let's say C2 is equal to in string, right? But we want to bypass the first comma, correct? And we really need to tell it where to start at. So let's give it a comma and see if it'll let us start at what? C1 plus 1? Right? Because we want to skip the first comma and look for the remainder of that string. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But the problem is we get an error because this built-in method only allows me to find the first occurrence, correct?
So you can't have more than 2 commas.
So and use in string. The other one is I can come back and if you remember this little command, the index of, if you remember back to the end of C# where this allowed us to do the exact same thing. I'm looking for what? A
The
comma?
placement of it.
Right, hold on. Let's go back and look at this. I want to look for my comma, but this one allows me to start somewhere in my, correct?
Yeah.
Where did I miss something?
Morning coffee.
No, I've got C2 named. Let's try it again. Something I'm doing is not. We have temp, right? Dot index of. First thing we do is tell what we're looking for, right? Comma, and then we want to tell it where we want to start.
It looked like it was messing up after you put that comma after the quotation.
You got to have that. Don't understand why it's giving me that error though. I wrote this program the other day and it worked fine. And C2 is a decimal. Oh, it looks like it's an integer. So let's do this. I'm just defining there. It actually has to be an integer, but why is it giving me the error? The value of the character, start index as integer. Just a second. Let me go back and look.
Take your time. I got all day.
I don't. I got another class at 11. Temp dot index of, comma,
Is
comma.
it because it's reading the quote, comma, quote, as a string instead of a character type?
It doesn't matter. That is a string. A string is a character.
Come on, Tyson. Get with the program.
Dang.
That 100% should work. C1, let's do this. C2, instead of decimal, here's what the deal is. Because C1 also has to be an integer for this to work. Okay?
But you've still got L in there.
No, that's, yeah, even though I'm not using L. And see that since I'm trying to redefine it there. It was because C1 wasn't defined as an integer also. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, so what that tells me the spot of the second one, correct? So there's name and there's age. But here's where we're going to run into a little bit of a problem, because on age right here on the mid, we tell it where to start, right? But we don't tell it where to end, because now it goes all the way through the end of the string, right? So now if I put C2 in there, will it stop there? Do you see?
I
that?
would assume so, because you're only putting that one in, which means it's only going to go to the
Yeah.
second comma, unless you put something like C3, and then
Okay.
it'll go to the third one.
We don't have C3 though. There's
But
only,
if you did place another comma
right.
for a different thing,
Okay.
it would go
So-
to that.
Let's see if it'll run and still pull name and age correctly. All right. Isn't this fun stuff? So here we go. We have Todd 25, comma 918-555-1212. There's your new phone number, right? Now, it's not going to print out the phone number, but if it works, uh-oh, what happened?
It kept that comma after the, oh, actually, I don't know.
It didn't separate them.
It did, but it didn't do it
No,
right.
it kept the second comma in the first three digits of the last number.
So it went a total of 5 times, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back and look at this now. Why in the world did it do that? First one was correct, right? So the second one, we started at the right spot, but we went. So let's look at this. What's the value in C2? If we think about it, Todd was in 5. So where was the second? 6, 7, then 8 was the second comma, right?
Yeah.
8 minus 1 is how big?
7.
So we don't, this second deal says don't go to a certain spot. It says how many spots to go. So what we goofed up on is if we subtract 5 from 7, it's going to go how many positions?
2.
2 digits for the age, right? Not the age plus a comma plus 3 more. You see what I'm getting at?
Yes.
So instead of telling it to go from 5 to 7, that's not the way it worked. It wants you to tell me how far to go. Okay, so here we go. Here's Todd. He's 25, and here's his phone number. Right? So now we should got that.
No phone number, though.
Huh? We have,
No phone.
yeah, but that's what we got to go address now, because we only broke it into what?
2 parts at that
2
point.
parts. So now we're over here. We've got to go for what?
3 parts.
Okay, so we have temp, name, and age, and now I also need what?
Phone number.
Phone. Okay, and so now if we look at phone, phone is equal to mid of temp, and we want to start at what?
C1.
C2 plus 1, right?
Yep.
And if I don't put a length on it, it's going to go for the rest of the string, correct?
Yes.
And then so right here, all I do is put a plus sign and then what? VB tab, another plus sign, and then I want to do what?
Phone.
Okay, let's try it. I gotta go back up here and share it. All righty, here we go. We have Todd. He's 25. 918-555-1212. The only thing we did was what?
Keep the comma.
We got
So
the
it needs
comma.
it needs a point, doesn't it? So +1 instead of -1.
So let's go.
Or
We started at C2 instead of, no, C2 plus 1.
that should have worked, shouldn't have?
Should have. From 1 through the comma. From 1 plus the comma to the second comma. 1 less than the second comma. Let's try 2. I don't know why, but mess around with it and see if that works, okay? I can't explain that one. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just got to go with it. Whoops. How old are you, Zach? 19?
Yeah.
Find the mute button for some reason.
There we go. There's your new phone number. So it's working now, correct? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're wanting to, so obviously it is working.
Yeah, I don't know why it's a 2. It doesn't make sense. I'm missing something. But anyway, now think about this. If we go back to our example the other day where when we captured something, we threw it, we concatenated it together. So remember we had name plus quote, comma, quote, plus age, plus whatever, and we put it all together in one string and then loaded it into an array list. If I pull that data from the array list back out, I can break it back into its individual parts, right? So the one thing we have left to do, even though we're printing age as a string, what if age was actually a number field that we were wanting to do a calculation with, right?
Convert it from string to decimal.
Right. So how would I do that? Right up here, if I came through and I had dim a field called D age, right? I could come through here and say D age is equal to what? C decimal of what? Age. And that would convert it into a numeric data type where I could start working with it again, right? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should.
Yeah. So there we've shown where we can go in and work with multiple commas down the line, right? Where we can put stuff together into a big string, throw it into an array list, or pull it from the array list out in a big string and then break it back out to its usable parts, correct? The only difference here, if you had 4 fields, you'd have, instead of 2 commas, you'd have how many? 3 and 4 data fields. But the IN string lets me find the comma, but only the first one, correct? The location of it. Index of allows me to start or anywhere in that string field and find the next one. So if we were looking for a third comma, I could say C3 equals temp dot index of quote, comma, C2 plus 1, and then start looking for the third one, correct? So I'm going to say, that's all I'm going to do here. I'm going to try to work up an example of where I throw stuff, get 3 or 4 fields, throw it into an array list, capture them, concatenate it together, throw it into an array list, then turn around and take that array list, pull it back out, and break it back into its parts. Because think about this, if we have a business and we do a transaction, let's say I want to pull, kind of like our Walmart program. Remember when we had our transaction array? Yes?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to work on something like that where we capture something from the keyboard, from our form, store it into an array list, but then go back and find it and then pull it back out and use it. Okay? So we're kind of going full stream. And after we get through with the array list, then we're going to also turn around and then throw it into a file where we can save it to disk and back. So we're going to have pretty much all the same stuff, but where we need it to be, right? Okay, questions? Did you stay with me?
Yes.
Everybody?
For the most part.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So you got an example here. I'm going to save the video, upload it, and throw data out there and upload it. Okay? And remember, even though I use the mid on my example, we also can use that substring, which was the one we used in C#. Either one of them work with string functions. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Wednesday, probably won't lecture. Probably Wednesday, I'll just throw another example out. Friday, we'll have another program, okay? If you're stuck and you need help on a program, shoot me an email and we'll try to set up a Zoom meeting where I can work with you. Friday during lab time's an easy time to work too. So just let me know, okay? Wednesdays, I've got a few office hour times in there that I can help with. Just if you need help, remember that link I showed you for enrollment. If I have an open time during those enrollment times, I can help you one-on-one if you need also. All right. Second plug on enrollment. If you haven't done it yet, let's try to get a schedule in there. Dylan, we're doing ours, what, tomorrow or?
Thursday.
Thursday.
At like
so,
11:45
yeah,
or something.
Yeah, 11:30. But there's some others I haven't enrolled yet. So you guys have done pretty good so far, but let's try to keep and get these done if we can. All right. Because a week from now, we start open enrollment with all the new freshmen coming in. And so my time slots might fill up a little bit faster then. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well,
Sounds good.
staying healthy. This is our approach. I hope it's working for you. I think we're getting enough information covered. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, especially for this
Sure.
class.
Pardon? What'd you say?
I said, yeah, especially for this class.
Yeah. All right. You guys can see me again?
Mhm.
Don't give them the hint. Watch the language behind me. Let me cover my head. It's COBOL. You've been seeing online where all the shortage of COBOL programmers because of the virus and stuff, the older legacy code they're needing to update. Well, that's an example of it. I programmed in it for a couple of years. It's pretty cool language. Just old school like me. All right, guys, I'll see you later. All right. If you have questions, email me and let me know.
All right.
Yes,
See you later, Mr. Hammonds.
All right.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Sounds good.